Hey everyone, today I've got a video for you on this here Contralto Clarinet. This one is made by Bundy, which is kind of the student line of Selmer instruments. And these things are more commonly seen in school orchestras. You know, this isn't really something you necessarily buy for yourself, being as big and large and sometimes expensive as these can be. So some general information about these before we start is these are pitched in E flat, and this sits in between the voicing of the bass clarinet and the contrabass clarinet, which are both in B flat, and this is kind of the sister to the contrabass in B flat, being pitched just a little bit higher, in E flat. So some other general information is you can see starting at the front, got a mouthpiece, and it goes into the neck. So this little bit here is the neck, just a small little curve which goes up into the main body, and you can move this back and forth to tune as you would, clarinet or bass clarinet. And then you've got this bend up here, this other tube that bends here and goes down into the main body. Most everything else is pretty standard. You've got all your keys, even though they are, of course, much more spread out than on the smaller instruments. So you've got, say, your A key down here that actuates all the way up here in this huge long rod, so A and A flat or G sharp. Even keys on the back, if you can see. So this register key actuates pip way up here, and switches off to one down here as well. So they're much more spaced out, and really, really long rods, of course, being a large instrument. Moving a little farther down, it's pretty standard, clarinet key setup, except that there are things, this probably won't come across on camera, but if you can see underneath this touch piece, there's a space. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a space underneath with a little venting hole. So that's a little bit different than the traditional clarinet. You've also got, your G sharp and your low, your F or C actuator there, your regular keys here. Of course, side keys as well. Move further down, kind of the same deal. You've got the G or D that actuates on the side, similar to a bass clarinet there. And then it is keyed all the way down to, on this side, low E flat, which is super handy for, of course, lower pitched instruments. Gives you that little extra note since you'll be playing in the lower end and the bass end, more often than you would on something like a traditional clarinet. So these things are not super common, like I said. You don't really see them around all that often. I've actually owned two of these. This is my second one. The other one I sold not too long ago, and came across this, and I was like, okay, I wish I'd made a video on that first one. I should snatch this up and make a video on it, and get some information out there about it, because there's not many people that play these. There aren't too many floating around, and like I said, they're mostly seen in school districts because they're the ones that can afford to buy an instrument like this, because they can go, a couple $1,000s brand new, and even more if you're getting, a nice one. These are made to be student, the Bundys are made to be student instruments, made to be lower cost, and of course a little bit lower quality, but that makes it a lot more manageable for, places like schools or students that would need to get one. Of course, if you get something like, the other one I've seen many versions of is the Selmer, like one of their Series 9s or something like that, which of course are super fancy, have a really nice bell, and they're, rosewood or whatever, and those are tens of thousands of dollars, of course. They're a specialty instrument, they're very expensive, very big, very hard to make, so those are really expensive. But these kind of things, a little more price-friendly, if you would, and budget-friendly, and a little more appealing to schools. So you see these a lot in school districts. Like I was just doing, when I was doing repairs at work for a couple of schools that we got, one of them actually did have almost this exact model of Contralto Clarinet. I thought that was kind of interesting. I haven't actually seen them around anywhere else, and this one actually did belong to a school district before I bought it, just off eBay. Another thing, why these are used, because if you have something like this, why wouldn't you just use a contrabass, in B flat, a contrabass clarinet, to cover similar parts? It can go even lower, all that. And it's usually because these are a little easier to play. So of course, being smaller, I say smaller, but this thing's still pretty big. It's almost as tall as I am. But these being slightly smaller than a contrabass make it a little bit easier to get around. Your air doesn't have to travel quite as far. You don't have to wrangle with quite as much distance on the keys and everything like that. And there's less room for error with the mechanisms, which is kind of a small thing. If it's set up correctly, every instrument will play as good as it plays and all that. But since these are slightly smaller, they're a little bit easier to get around, a little bit easier to play. It's not so much instrument to wrangle, if that makes sense. So these are a lot of times used for, if you have like a smaller group and you don't quite need the full range that contrabass clarinet could do, and you can cover it on a contralto clarinet, or many pieces only call for contralto rather than contrabass. So of course you would use contralto, and for solo work as well, many people will use these for solo pieces rather than a contrabass because it's easier to get around and can lend itself a lot better to that. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and play some test pieces for you, give you a little bit of an idea about how it sounds, how it plays. Full disclosure, I'm not much of a clarinet player, so these may be a little bit basic, so excuse my playing, but I'll do my best to give you an idea of how it sounds, how it comes across, how it plays, and just a little bit of an idea about what this thing's about. Hope you enjoy.